What if the most important event in human history has already happened? And it has happened hidden from us. Today on Truth Be Told, I'm joined by legendary disclosure activist Steven Bassett, a man who has spent over 30 years pushing governments to admit what he says that they already know, that we're not alone, and we have never been alone. Steven is the architect of the term Truth Embargo, and one of the leading voices demanding full, formal disclosure of extraterrestrial presence engaging with humanity. In this episode, we go straight into the deep end. ETs, nuclear weapons, and why they may be trying to stop us from destroying ourselves. From UFOs shutting down missile silos to chilling warnings about nuclear war, Steven connects the dots between extraterrestrial activity and our most dangerous technology. We'll talk about political silence, global risk, and why Steven believes we're on the brink of a historical shift. This is urgent, and this is real. In this conversation, well, the world needs to hear it. I'm Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told, and please welcome back to the Truth Be Told studios, Steven Bassett. Oh man, how do you bring in 2026 on a good way? Well, we have the one and only Steven Bassett here with us. How you doing, Steven?
I'm pretty excited. What can I say? I think this is the year. I've waited 30 years for this. That's long enough.
Right.
This is going to be a great year. Now, it's not all going to be great. I think we're going to have some extraordinarily awful things happen, but some extraordinarily great things happen, which means that going to need that extra supplements, right? You know, the ones that you use to replace Xanax. So, right. But we'll get through it, I'm sure.
Well, I work with a lot of psychics, and they say the same thing. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But they say that this year is going to be a good one, and good one for disclosure, and I'm excited about that. And I know at Conscious Life Expo, you're going to be leading people off on Friday in the Plaza 1 room at 4 p.m. on February 20th. Get your tickets in advance, by the way, for ConsciousLifeExpo.com. But, Steven, we've talked for years about disclosure, and one thing that you're going to be bringing up is at the Conscious Life Expo is ETs, nukes, and disclosure. That's one of the titles, and I kind of want to start there, if you don't mind, because I think many people think, well, if there's all this unknown intelligence and they can shut down U.S. and Soviet or, the Russian nuclear system at will, then why isn't there kind of a more of a bigger thing and more, where so many people are still unaware about this? This should be like headline news. Can we start there?
Well, yeah. Let me first say this. I'm asked to give the title of my presentation at the Conscious Life Expo months ago. And the field that I'm in is not exactly stagnant.
No.
It changes constantly.
Yes.
So everybody needs to be aware that they may walk into that room and hear something completely different. And I'm not going to apologize, because if I change it, it'll for a damn good reason. But I may do a little of both. So let's say that I'm going to address two things. One will be UFOs, nukes, and disclosure. But I may go short on it because I anticipate significant things happening. We'll be talking about that. The simplest way that I can put this is that we know a great deal about the extraterrestrials. Now, some people would be shocked at that, since they are quite convinced, because of certain skeptics they follow religiously on X, that there are no extraterrestrials, or there's no advanced non-human technology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This has all just been an illusion, a little mental breakdown on the part of millions and hundreds of millions of people. But in fact, it is true. And the only reason that everybody isn't running around excited as hell is because our government has spent, I think, billions of dollars, particularly when you consider the cost of the vast, complicated scheme that's needed to maintain the classification systems and the stovepipe and everything else. Plus all the people you're paying, right?
Right.
Millions of dollars to convince every American that there's no there there. It's just not there at all. which is quite remarkable and incredibly dangerous and must never happen again. Okay? So there is that. But aside from the fact that the government thinks there's nothing to this, the citizen research activist journalist documentary community, which has only grown over the years but has consisted of thousands of people going back to 1947, have proven this issue 50 times over, have established a massive archive of direct sighting evidence, hundreds of thousands of contactee reports, not all studied but archived, hundreds of documentaries, hundreds of first-hand testimonies, and scores, if not hundreds, of witnesses who have pretty close relationship to the issue that have come forward one way or another over the years, some in deathbed confessions, right? And I can go on and on and on. So we know a lot. We know what they look like. We know how they communicate. We know how they travel. We have a pretty good idea where they're based. And we can argue about ultimately where they're from. I'm putting my money on other star systems. I'm going to win that money. Okay? So with that, of all the things we know about the crop circles and the contactee stuff and the genetic stuff and the classified programs and the antigravitic systems and all, what is the most important thing we know about the ETs that we have learned? We know about ancient stuff, but let's just put that aside because it don't much matter anymore. About the extraterrestrial presence, and it is my contention that it is this. On numerous occasions, starting in '66, they started turning off the ICBM nuclear missiles in American SAC-based sites and in the Soviet Union. How many is not clear. We have very good evidence of, I think, absolutely 2, I think also 3 in the U.S. We have anecdotal evidence to some more, and we have a research evidence, courtesy of George Knapp and a number of other researchers that went over there, all right? Their names escape me, and I do want to mention them. Paul Stonehill certainly has done a lot of research, Lindenberg, Hesseman, but certainly George Knapp, that they shut them down in the Soviet Union a number of times. And we have not anecdotal but not trivial evidence that on at least 2 occasions, one here and one in the Soviet Union, they turn them on. Now, by that I mean they set them into the launch sequence.
Right.
Meaning ching, 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 kiss your ass goodbye, that kind of thing, right? That is the most important thing we know about the extraterrestrials, bar none, that they did it. Now, we can now speculate. Given that's true, we could speculate, but why? Okay, now, that is something that is not easy because the extraterrestrials are not part of this conversation.
Right.
However, for those that have the more understanding you have of the broader history, even and to the degree to the, how would you say, the granular level, whatever, but simply the broader picture, the more likely you're going to be able to come up with a reasonable assessment. Now, I've got mine. Others have theirs. Ultimately, they're all going to come together once the ETs join in the conversation. But here is my assessment. All right, as quickly as possible. The modern era begins with the hydrogen bombs. No, the atomic bombs dropped in Japan. They killed hundreds of thousands of
I was going to ask you about that.
most of which were non-combatants, vaporized, boiled, and the ones that survived, which they hadn't. That was in August of 45. There were some sightings after that. They didn't get much notice because this was a pretty intense time.
Right.
The war had ended and so forth, but there were some sightings. Not too much. And then almost 2 years to the month, many sightings started occurring. Early 47, so many that apparently a couple of them, we think, bumped into each other in the middle of an unbelievably intense lightning storm in New Mexico and crashed in different places. But the one that matters is the one north of Roswell. We got that craft. We got those bodies. We sent out a press release about the craft. Didn't know about the bodies at that point. It was a second site. And so Had they had that press release included the bodies from the second site, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
That's how close the world came to getting disclosure in 1947, I believe. But press release went out, okay? And then the sightings continued, all right? And as history has shown, the prevalence of these sightings near nuclear facilities, significant military facilities, was pretty easy to determine, though they would appear anywhere, right? And so the U.S. government knew we had ETs here, had the craft, had bodies in 47, and we basically didn't say anything, denied it, acted like it never happened. This went on for 5 years. The sightings continued, right? We didn't have the cameras we had back then. If we had, 300 million cameras like we do in the U.S., there'd probably been hundreds of thousands of photographs, but whatever. You have that. So 5 years go by, we're just pretending they don't exist, the government. Then all of a sudden they turn up over the Washington, D.C., over the Capitol for days, repeatedly. Picked up on radar. Chase planes, forget about it. Nothing we can do. Drove the government crazy, right? That's when, I'll get the name in a second, but that shook the government up. And as a result, they had to hold a commission, they called it a Roberts Commission, to decide what to do about it, which is important. That commission is because of those 10 days of what amounted to Foo Fighters. Mm-hmm. It's basically the same thing as the Foo Fighters. These are plasma balls of some kind. They'd been turning up during the war, but no big deal. We got a war to fight. And all of a sudden, they're turning up over the Capitol. There's no war. And the panel concluded, no, we're just not going to do that. We're going to address the public's growing interest and come down on that, and thus the formal beginning of the Truth Embargo. That's 52. Okay, more sightings. More sightings, and still we're not taking any action. And then 10 years after the Robertson panel in 62, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. I watched it. I was glued to the set, right, for all 18 days. And we came this close to a nuclear war. A submarine commander saved us, right, because he came really close to taking out one of our ships, right? Just sinking the hell out of it. And Curtis LeMay's desire to invade was rejected by the president because he wanted to just neutralize the situation in Cuba before the missiles got there. Later we learned some missiles were already there and launchable. Had he launched a strike on Cuba, they would have nuked Florida. Now, some people would say, and the problem with that is what? Right? Yeah, okay. That's how close we came.
Wow.
Now let's go forward. Just 4 years after that close call. Remember, they shut the nukes down. I got ahead of myself. 4 years after that, almost to the month. 4 years after that, in the spate of 6 months, they shut down 30 nukes, 10 at Minot, and then later 20 on 2 occasions at Malmstrom. Shut them down. They had to be turned back on. Right? There were first-hand witnesses to the craft over the bases. They were the security personnel. Wow. And, of course, there were, I guess you could say, second-hand witnesses to the event, and that's the SAC base commanders down in the silos that had the responsibility, just if they felt like it, to launch a nuclear strike in civilization. All right? That was 66, just 4 years later. All right? Gee. That's interesting. You starting to see the pattern here?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So that's 66. And we still didn't move forward and acknowledge their presence. They did everything they can to just make those events go away, and only because some of the SAC base officers are some of the finest heroes I've ever known, many of which are finally died because the government Truth Embargo has lasted this long, have been on a campaign for 30 years to testify before Congress, and I assure you the DOD did not want that to happen.
Wow.
However, it's about to happen. All right? And so that is just the beginning of this era. It's already tied to the nukes. And since then, there have been more sightings over these bases, right? More indications. And let's just add one more component. You see, we have in the files of researchers, the vast majority of which have never been, quote, studied, researched, interviewed, just the reports are put in there. Almost all of these reports are firsthand from the contactees saying, I can't tell anybody, but I'm going to write you a private letter or a private email just so you know this is what happened to me. We have hundreds of thousands of those. And we have hundreds and hundreds that have been studied. All right? And guess what? There are numerous and significant number of accounts in which they state they were given telepathic messages and images referring to what appeared to be huge destruction, most likely from nuclear war in our future. And then there are the school children. On a number of occasions, possibly as many as 12 or 13, though only 2 have been heavily researched, but there is research for some others. But the 2 that are heavily researched are fully established, in which a visible craft sets down next to a schoolyard where kids are playing. ETs get out of the craft. They are drawn, the students are drawn to these ETs, either because it's exciting or because they've been invited, I guess you could say. And messages are put into their head of future destruction, almost certainly from nuclear war. Let's add that to the picture. And so when I say that the most important thing we know about these ETs is their connection to nuclear weapons, nothing else comes close. Why? Because, let's see, 80 years on, 82 years on, 81 years on, since we killed a couple of 100,000 human beings with atomic weapons, we are this close to nuclear war. We are literally dancing around it, right? Taunting it, right? Throwing, rotten eggs at it. You stupid nuclear war, you're not going to get us. We're so close, I can taste it. And those that don't want to feel that way, I do not blame them. Why would you want to carry around with you 24 hours a day the fact that 10 minutes from that moment, nothing matters anymore in this world? And you're gone. And your country is gone. And all the hopes and dreams of your children are gone.
Right.
And all hell will reign for God knows how long. Who in the hell wants to carry that around? Well, I'm one of them because I've been doing that for 30 years, but I know others that have been doing that. There have been a number of activists that have approached this. Annie Jacobson is one of the more recent. She's written an extraordinary book on nuclear weapons. Read it. She's also given some excellent interviews on top podcasts, which she makes the point that I am making better than I, that we are this close. The doomsday clock has never been closer. I forget where it is, 80 seconds or something. I think it started out at 7 minutes. And so we're this close to nuclear war. The ETs are doing what they're doing. I believe that the march toward nuclear war is directly connected to the most important aspect of their presence. And their presence, to the extent that they wish to manifest it, and that's their call, not ours, is about preventing that from happening.
Can I ask you something? Let me ask you this.
That's it. That's my take on it.
Oh no, that's honestly, you're right on. I feel the same way. I just remember growing up. I was born in 1969, so I didn't get to see the 60s other than hearing through history. But my teenage years in the 80s, I remember us talking about the Cold War, the doomsday clock, a lot, and we were very terrified of that. 2025, you don't barely hear about a doomsday clock. You hear, Russia throwing out, we're going to use nuclear bombs. You have North Korea, all these people that are constantly testing and threatening, but we don't seem to have that fear like we used to. Is that propaganda of downplaying? Because I've never thought I would hear Americans say Putin was not that bad of a guy. It really baffles me to where we went from the fear of destroying our planet to like, he ain't gonna do it. Like you said, he ain't gonna do it.
Let me help here. First of all, I believe that the vast majority of humans on this planet, and that's all 8 billion, okay, the vast majority of the 8 billions have put that fear back in the back of their mind.
Right.
It resides primarily in the subconscious. It may emerge, the manifestation may emerge in the unbelievable amount of anti-anxiety drugs
Right.
that this world consumes. It's not just the U.S., let me tell you.
Right.
There's a reason that the pharmaceutical industry has made trillions and trillions of dollars.
Right.
It's because we need huge amounts of anti-anxiety medicine. And we've been consuming it to the point of major addiction because we are carrying that truth back here. And it's been submerged in the subconscious, okay? In terms of it, it's always available. You can Google it anytime you want. The articles do turn up. But again, it's not something you want to dwell on. But here is one of the reasons why. The United States, of course, is the leading nuclear power.
Right.
The United States is leading in the disclosure process. And the engagement of this issue by the ETs has focused heavily in the United States, though not strictly. Mm-hmm. So we're a key player. We can make a huge difference here. We can end this anytime we want to. All right. And let me make a statement that I am not going to apologize for. And that's this. We have had, certainly over the last 30 years, the worst political leadership in the history of the country. It is absolutely awful. And by that, I am not pointing at a party. I am pointing at the whole damn thing. All right? It has decayed. It has been undermined. Laws have been passed to make it dysfunctional as hell. It's unbelievably expensive. And because of the dysfunction of the system and the breakdown in the political structure and the electoral process, the only people really, the vast majority of people that dare to get into it are those that can raise the money to do it in order to have the power. And then once they have the power, they turn into inexorable cowards. That's as bad as it gets. Is it as bad as some of the Roman emperors that usually got murdered in the first couple of years of their reign, but burned down Rome a couple of times, whatever? Right. You know, the crazy kings that are from these incestual lineages. Is it worse than that? I don't know. I didn't live back then.
Right.
These were awful times no matter what, right? Let's face it. But in terms of the modern world, where we have this knowledge and ability to move forward and great, unbelievable opportunities as species, it is awful. And so go back and review the campaign speeches of the last 50 presidential candidates and as many of the senatorial candidates. Again, there's a minimum of 2. You got your primary. Watch hundreds and hundreds of these campaign speeches and find 1 or 2 in which they have the guts to bring up the matter of the risk of nuclear war. It isn't there. Mm-mm. And the ones that didn't win. And so, in other words, our entire political leadership class, including the presidents, essentially abrogated this issue to a closet that, as long as it didn't get open, made it easier for them to win an election and easier to rule. And that is one of the reasons why the awareness level is where it is, and one of the reasons why we're so close to nuclear war. Without, now again, this is America, the major the major constitutional republic with an extremely high level of democracy, right? Now there are other countries that have, I think, even better democracies, but there's only 9 nuclear powers, and I'm not going to say that the UK's government's got a better democracy than us. Not going to say that Israel has. Definitely not North Korea. Definitely not China. Definitely not Russia. All right. Let's see. I think I'm leaving a nuclear power out. I'm not sure which. I know. I think France. Oh, yeah, France. No. So there you go. We're, I think, the strongest democracy. Okay? And so the fact that we have done what we have done has guaranteed that we would get to where we are today. So we are the leading nation in terms of really educating our public and the world about the true risk of nuclear war, because others are not prepared to do it. And we are the leading nation right now in terms of the ability and what we know and what we have, how we've engaged the issue and the ETs themselves to end the truth embargo.
I was going to bring
that
that up.
Either.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit, the truth embargo?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm happy to, because it's my term.
I know.
It's like, but I don't write books, so consequently, I may not get the credit for that, because you don't get credit from things you say into cameras. You get credit for putting it down on paper. It's published, right? That's yours, right? Yeah. However, this is the age of the internet, where I think podcasts and interviews may be more powerful than books now, assuming people even read them anymore.
Right.
And so I've added these things to the language. I'm very proud of it. Truth embargo. And defined it, of course. I mean, the words have always existed, right? But formalized proper noun, no. I think it was around 2001. It's the formal confirmation of heads of state of an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. It's that simple. Formal confirmation. And one could say, well, what form would the confirmation take? It would take about 60 seconds. My fellow Americans, my fellow Canadians, my fellow whatever the hell, right? Yeah, we do have an extraterrestrial, non-human advanced technology presence, probably extraterrestrial. We have technology related to that, and I can confirm that today. And plenty of evidence will be showing up starting tomorrow. It's over. That's disclosure. All the rest is just, decoration. The other one was disclosure, capital D. If ending the truth embargo is the most important thing, what would you call that? What is it? So, ending the truth embargo was too many words, too many syllables. So I said it's disclosure, capital D, proper noun. The word had been used with respect to this issue, but always in the sense of more information coming out. Let's disclose this, let's disclose that, right? But no, disclosure is a proper noun, and it's not it's not revealing more information. It is confirming what we already know. It is confirmation of the extraterrestrial presence by heads of state of nations. All right. So I got that one out there. Okay. And then there's I think there's another one. I'll think of it in a minute. So the truth embargo, which I tried to as part of a group, try to get a movie out on that. It blew up, and a lot of things blew up back in those days. If I ever got significant money, assuming somebody else hasn't beat me to it, I want to make the documentary, or help make the documentary, Truth Embargo. And it would not be the history of the ET presence. It would be the history of the government's refusal to acknowledge it, and everything they did to actually convince the vast majority of the human race, certainly the vast majority of Americans, for 80 years, that the emperor, who was walking around everywhere for 80 years, was absolutely clothed and not naked. Right, this naked guy, 80 years, walking around in public, turning up everywhere, New York, Los Angeles, around the world, flying on airplanes, absolutely naked. The government managed to convince everybody to go, oh, no, he's got clothes. That is a story, in my mind, more interesting and more important to how we deal with our world and how governments conduct themselves going forward than the ET presence, right? But that's a full-born Civil War Ken Burns level documentary. It's a whole lot of money and much harder, because when Ken Burns did the Civil War, there were about 50,000 books about the Civil War, and the government never denied there was a Civil War.
Right.
But in this case, the government's got vast amounts of stuff stuffed underground somewhere you can't get to, and they're denying it even happened. So that will be a formidable task, but not out of the reach of a J.J. Abrams or a Spielberg or Lucas or Cameron. I invite them to call, and I would be happy to help, put together a pitch deck. But Truth Embargo, in a way, is the most important thing that we need to fully grasp, fully deal with as this unfolds and resolves itself. Dealing with the extraterrestrial presence is another matter, and frankly, I don't think will be as hard. But dealing with everything that made it possible for the world to be bamboozled for 80 years, all 8 billion started off when the Truth Embargo started, it was only 2 billion people. Now there's 8 billion. So each year there was more people they had to convince. Emperors got closed. Emperors got closed. That is something we really need to understand, because if we ever do it again, my optimism for the human race will fall to zero.
I interviewed James Fox a few weeks ago, and several months ago I interviewed the head of MUFON Brazil about the incident that happened in northeast Brazil, where the crash, and actually it's very Roswell, a living being was taken from the crash site. Doctors, people in the city, the town, saw this creature face to face, and the doctor said, if you haven't seen the documentary, the doctor said, the being was just a loving being, and he started crying, and I got really kind of emotional too, because it's, we hear so much about the negativity of what these beings are. But what was really interesting to me, how the U.S. government, especially the Air Force, got involved in a crash that happened in Brazil.
That's not unusual at all.
It's not unusual, but when you said the U.S. is leading the way, it's exactly what you said. How another country gets a crash site, and that U.S. comes in and swoops and takes it. So why?
Unless it happens to be in the Soviet Union or China.
You're right.
Then we don't care.
Right. So can you talk about that? Why so many people don't even want to try to take the technology for themselves versus letting the U.S. come in and take the being and the craft?
Well, first of all, this incident, which, James Fox is a national treasure, and everything he does is important, and it's an event, it's a case, but it's just a case.
Right.
It doesn't matter in terms of the fundamental aspect of the ET presence, one way or the other. And I'm not in the business of proving cases per se.
Right.
But the larger question is, the U.S. is the most powerful democracy in the world. It has embargoed this issue, and pretty much all of the other democracies of size have gone along with it. Mm-hmm. The Soviet Union and China, and post-Soviet Union Russia, which is pretty much a totalitarian state, have not gone along with it. They don't want it. In other words, at least they have not wanted it, meaning that if you're running a country the way an ideological state has to be run, you do not want people with, starry-eyed, looking up at the heavens, imagining what ETs are doing, and not paying attention to what you're doing.
Right.
You want them in line. You want them focused. You want them focused on the ideology. You want them reading the Red Book or whatever the hell book, right? And so, and to the extent that they have crash vehicles and are doing technology research, which we're sure they are. Again, you'd rather keep that to yourself. You have more motivation to keep it to yourself in the United States, as far as I'm concerned. And so that's pretty much everybody, isn't it? And if some, and if individuals come forward, whether they're an astronaut or maybe the head of state of a small country like Grenada or whatever, that doesn't threaten the truth embargo. But there are a number of countries that could end it tomorrow. They've chosen not to. All right, and that's part of the amazing story of the truth embargo.
Yeah.
You want research, or not research. You want teams going out and interviewing all the living heads of state that were, heads of state of major countries during that period, and interviewing them. What did you know? Why? And if you knew, why didn't you take action? What were the thoughts? We need to understand how we chose to play it this way. Right now, look, over the millennia, many a wonderful, brilliant person, men and women, who have discovered something extraordinary about the physical nature of this world, and then tried to convey it to their fellow citizens, ended up dead, poisoned, burned at the stake,
Right.
stoned to death, put into solitary confinement. So it's not unusual for extraordinarily new information that seems to threaten people's worldview can go badly. But as we move into the 20th century, the age of enlightenment, I guess you could say, where the scientific method is now well established and we're learning things like this. We go from planes to like landing on the moon in 60 some years. I mean, we're rocking.
Right.
Okay. And so in this case, though, a few people, I don't think so many, but a few people who were desirous that the whole world know that, my God, we're not alone, might have ended badly, right? As bad as in ancient times? No, certainly not. But a few, okay. But overall, the nature of the world was not, no. To really contain this that way, you'd have to kill off thousands and thousands. And before you know it, their family would be having their own podcasts and telling you all those stories. So no, but they did what they had to do, and they were able to manage it. This is almost beyond comprehension. And we have to come to understand it. Because if they can maintain a lie of that magnitude when the focus of the lie is flying around overhead on a daily basis, turning up in people's bedrooms at 2 a.m, right? And being researched by thousands of people worldwide, if they can do that, what more could they, how would you say, lie about or control? And without getting into deep state swamp stuff, QAnon stuff, right? Great deal of which is bogus, but understandable given the fact that they've been operating this way. Right? If somebody tells you that a locked room in a house that you've moved into is you cannot open it. It must remain closed. You cannot go in there. Otherwise, you will be forced to leave the house or something awful will happen.
Right.
As the years pass by, you will conceive or conjecture what is in that room. My God, you'll come up with 100 possibilities. And so the truth embargo has spawned 1,000 speculations and explanations, which I don't complain about that. I don't criticize or condemn. It's exactly what you would expect. And so if people are upset because of this conspiracy theory or that conjecture or whatever, blame the government. Don't blame the people that are trying to understand what the hell is going on when the government says there's nothing going on. Right? This is the post-disclosure world, which I think is going to come this year, if not, by spring, is significantly about that. Maybe most importantly about that, and then the information and the information and the stuff that's going to come out of governments about what they know and technology and everything else, maybe even a few bodies, and maybe even open disclosure. That will be important and incredibly exciting. But in and of itself, it doesn't change the way nations on this planet conduct their affairs from what we consider the more advanced and righteous all the way up to the most unrighteous. Okay? It doesn't really, deal with that. We're going to have to deal with that, even in a post-disclosure era, or we will still have that nuclear war.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm going to be focusing as an activist organization in the post-disclosure era, which I assure you is going to be a lot more complicated, intense than what we're in now.
Yeah.
Right? But I think overall far more positive, far more forward-looking, and hopefully we will manage it well.
Do you believe if disclosure would happen today, do you feel that would destabilize the nuclear threat, or do you feel like that would resolve the nuclear threat?
You can't rule out the possibility that some idiot in some nation having it confirmed that there's ETs here and they're all powerful, God knows what. And they are. I mean, they could destroy us anytime they want without even getting into advanced technology. They could use Stone Age technology and do it, right?
Right.
Might get a little weirded out and launch a nuke. One of the most extraordinarily concerning things, and again, I'm not here to ruin your day, folks, but if I pay attention,
yeah,
and you don't, because you really don't really need to know this, frankly, and I mean, you don't want to know that, and I understand it, but my job is to go, poke you a little bit. One of the most extraordinary things that has emerged recently, I think the core of that emergence is Annie Jacobson's book, about UFOs, about nuclear weapons, which he's also then recounted on some major podcasts. I think she was on, I don't know if she hasn't been on Rogan. She needs to be. I know she was on Diary of a CEO, Steven Bartlett, who was just absolutely amazing. That is an incredible podcast. I mean, it is absolutely an amazing podcast. Is this, and by the way, what I'm about to tell you, whether you got it or not, all right, was at the heart of a recent movie, right, by Catherine Bigelow, that didn't have the ending people wanted. So what? No call, right? And the movie was, okay, I'm going to come up with it. Again, I am approaching 80, and I got to tell you, there's some cells in there that have given up the ghost.
I get it.
Do you know the movie I'm talking about? Just came out. Oh, God. Hang on. No, look. This requires.
Who was it? Who was in it?
Not names that you would.
Okay.
Brother.
Wicked. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not. Oh, man, I hate getting old.
I'm right behind you.
Okay, but it's about to happen. It is about to happen. All right, here we go. That's why we got AI and all this stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Come on, we need no response. Well, that's what? Hang on. I'm not sure what's going on here, but let me go here. Oh, I see why. I'm in the wrong thing. Thank you. Yeah, this is so ridiculous. A House of Dynamite.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A House of Dynamite. You need to watch this movie, folks, if you haven't, but you're not going to like the ending. I don't care. All right? I don't care. So, what is it that this movie highlights, right? Let me just get this up here. What is it this movie highlights that should scare the hell out of you? All right, now take that down, Steve, and bring up this. Now go here. Here's what it highlights. Because of certain changes that have been made in our nuclear deterrence protocols, going back a number of years, all right, it wasn't all at once, but, and I forget when this started. I think it started in 2017. I'm not positive, so don't hold me to that. But the effect of these changes is there is no barrier, no, how would you say, what's the word I'm looking for? No intermediary switch or process between the launching of nuclear weapons by the President of the United States and the turning of the key in the silos, which means that the President of the United States can wake up in the middle of the night in a, full sweat, call for that football, open it up, and launch nukes. Wow. Not many people know this. Now, it's out there. Certainly, Jacobson has put it out there. There's been a couple of articles. The House of Dynamite goes there in a way, though not as powerful. They could have been even starker, right? Let me tell you. In other words, the House of Dynamite gives you a sense of just how risky it is and how complicated it is, but it doesn't go so far as to make the point the president could just do it for the hell of it. That's a different movie, right? That is where things are.
Wow.
Now, let's be clear. When it comes to other countries, such as North Korea, it's a relatively tightly run country. And I'm pretty sure there's no evidence about this that I'm aware of. It may be known to our national security intelligence. It's the same in Russia. I'm thinking if Putin wants to launch a nuke, he doesn't need to ask permission.
No.
And there's no check. There's no, how would you say, some sort of checking process along the way. About the other countries, I don't know. Right? But again, some of these other countries could be in the same position. And it only takes one, So, again, think about that. Think about that. That is where we are now. And so, once again, the most important thing you need to know is there may be a connection, almost certainly a connection between the ET presence, their activities, and the nukes. And the evidence points to they care if we use those nukes, right? They're willing to warn us about using those nukes, okay, over and over again. The whole drone swarm thing that went on for a year it included drones eventually, but fundamentally it was a Foo Fighter UFO flap, the biggest in all of history. It went on for a year, starting in the Pacific, moving west until it finally got to New Jersey, where the government's going, okay, if you're going to do this over New Jersey, we're going to take measures. So they're willing to warn us. The only question that remains is if somebody accidentally or just because they feel like doing it launches a nuke. And we see in the movie House of Dynamite that even a single nuke launch may be enough to trigger a nuclear war. It's not like, everybody thinks, no problem, we should shoot them all down. Right? And single nuke, no problem, we'll get it. No. Right? And I don't know if House of Dynamite even took into account the emergence of hyper nukes. Right? The ones that are traveling at speeds even greater than before, with the ability to maneuver. All right? I don't know if it's even took into account. I think this was kind of a basic nuke, and they couldn't bring it down. Right? So again, we our politicians, has a single politician come forward and said anything about the House of Dynamite? No, because they're too afraid to lose their seat. It's too expensive to campaign, and once you campaign and get in there, right, the last thing you want to do is get knocked out. They're cowards. Yeah. There are some that are less cowardly than others. I can say that. Some that even have a certain nobility. But in terms of the fundamental 535 there, when it comes to the things they must address, need to address, that are actually existential, they are cowards. And history will record that, right? And go, yeah, that's what happened. Look, Rome fell because it had a series of incest-derived, emperors that were mostly disgusting, pathetic, evil bastards. Rome fell, right? It had been around a long time.
Yeah.
The same thing could happen here. It's kind of like that, only not as, it's a little less romantic and it's more systemic. But if we fall, it will be because of the failure, not just of a single emperor that does stupid stuff, but the collapse of the fundamental political systems, or the dysfunction of the political systems that simply couldn't keep up with the pressure being put on them.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in this. I'm not in this because I'm dying to see a UFO. I've never seen one. Or that an ET will show up in my bedroom. We have a conversation. That's not what I'm in. I assure you. It ain't enough. That is not enough to stick with this for 30 years.
Right.
Okay? I assure you. I'm in this for everything I've just said in the last 30, 40 minutes.
And we appreciate that. And we appreciate you doing that. And I think the future generations, like we said, we hope the disclosure is this year. We really have been waiting for this. But for future generations, what do you see the future generations as they look back? What do you hope they finally said we had the courage to do?
Well, look, if
That's
we do the
hypothetical.
right thing, they're gonna praise us, right? If we do the wrong thing, they won't be there.
Right.
They won't care, right? The Road. It's a fine movie. Check it out. It's very depressing. The book was also. No, let's talk about this. Here's why I think disclosure is practically on our doorstep. Here's why it's going to happen this year. Okay. One, everything's in place. Everything is in place. What do I mean by that? In order to responsibly disclose, which is fair, right? A lot of reasonable people in the United government want us to responsibly disclose, and that's not an unreasonable thing, right? You needed certain things that weren't in place in 2017. They weren't there. A little bit, but really not there. The fundamental stuff to disclose, which is a political act with all kinds of massive implications, both national security, domestically, right? You need to have things in order, right? You just can't wake up and do it. Starting in 17, we started putting everything in place, and now it's all there. Have we had hearings on this? I mean, real hearings on this? Yes. We've had 3 plus another 5, what we'll call hearing briefings. Prior to that, we had only had 2 half-day hearings going in 1968 and 66. So we've had the hearings. Have politicians coming out and spoken directly to the issue, literally going and saying that there is an extraterrestrial presence. Yeah, we've got that. Okay. Has the media really gotten into this? Are we getting thousands of articles? I've logged in 8,000 since 2017 that are addressing this issue with virtually no skepticism. Yes. Are they addressing the disclosure process? Yes. Okay, we got that. All right. Do we have lots of new documentaries? Yeah. But have we had a breakthrough documentary, the one we've been waiting for years, decades even? Yeah, it's called The Age of Disclosure. Watch it. It's huge. All right. Has Hollywood finally broken through? Yes. In 2022 is when J.J. Abrams put out the first Hollywood-backed documentary series on the subject called UFO. He then put out a second one. Shortly after that, 2023, I think, this when Steven Spielberg finally put out his first documentary work on this, as far as I know. Taken was not a documentary, but it was damn important, okay? And it was called Encounters, all right? We had that. All right. We also needed legislation. You got to have legislation. If you're going to announce the extraterrestrial presence of the fact the government's got tech and all kinds of stuff, and the people want to know about it, you have got to have legislation. Otherwise, you're going to have mobs of people roaming around the Pentagon parking lot, looking in windows. And so have we gotten it? We got it. We've had 3 pieces of legislation, an attempt to put in 3 times in a row, a 4th. And that the legislation, even though it was delimited by pushback from the defense contractors and others, it's enough. We could use some more, but we have enough. All right. We even, one of the bills has even set up a process, but not as robust as we want. And there is an archive. There is a UAP section of the National Archives that's getting information coming in. Okay. It's nothing earth shaking, but that's happened. We got that. We need witnesses to come forward. Lots of them, right? They've always been coming forward a little here, a little there over these many years. But in the last 7 years, dozens and dozens and dozens of them, many of which we don't even know have come forward because they've come and they've spoken to people in Congress and journalists, but their names are not known. We've needed that. That's all we did. We got it. It's all there. And what that means is the President of the United States can walk out, not in the East Room. It's probably going to have to be in the Oval Office. Well, it has to be in the Oval Office. Sit down in the chair, turn on the camera, turn on the microphone, and say, my fellow Americans, I can confirm today that the non-human technology you've been hearing about is true. And in fact, not technologically advanced non-humans. True. And I'm, as your president, going to see to it they're utilizing the legislation and the Congress. Starting tomorrow, you're going to start learning all about it. For now, I'm going to bed. See you tomorrow, right? And there will be hearings and everything else. He doesn't have to do anything more than that. He doesn't have to prove anything. He doesn't have to get into details. He doesn't say, I confirm this is true, and go to bed. That's disclosure. And it can happen tomorrow because the platform is built. Everything is there. Now, let me go on. All right? There have been rumors, and there have been pieces written, that the current president has been confronted with this issue going back to his first term. So we're going back to 2017. It's been an interesting 8 years, almost 9 years. A lot happened, a lot going on. But amidst all of the milieu, there has been some indications that have popped up here and there that there has been an engagement of the issue, some of them which are quite known. And it's been known from the beginning that his son, Don Jr., was into the issue, and we assume that he has dinner with his son quite often. Okay. Now, here's where things are now. There has been even more indications that the administration is formally engaging the issue. You have the interview of Ross Coulthart with Ross Coulthart and Elizondo together by the son of the president, Don Jr., 5 days before the inauguration, 2 hours on the podcast Triggered. No accident. We had the vice president coming on a podcast, I think called Ruthless, saying that he's really obsessed with UFOs. No accident. Followed up by the second one was, let me see, that was the vice president. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard, fairly high-level position, director of national security. She goes on another podcast and talks about her interest and engagement of the issue. Not an accident. No. Then the vice president, then Anna Paulina Luna, shortly after that, goes on Joe Rogan, a fairly well-known podcast, I believe, with a lot of subscribers. I forget how many.
Just a few.
And she gets into it, and she's talking about it, and she's talking about documents she's seen. No accident. And then J.D. Vance goes back on another podcast not that long ago and reiterates how he is really interested in the subject and goes out of his way to point out that the Secretary of State and also the Director of the National Security Advisor, Marco Rubio, into the issue. And of course, Rubio then shortly after that, which he knew was coming, is of course one of the key figures in the documentary, The Age of Disclosure. No accident. Now, folks, to say nothing like this has happened prior to this year in this country, going all the way back to 45, would be an understatement, to say the least. We've had the odd trickle, the odd moment, the odd win. This is an avalanche of acknowledgement, literally rolling down the mountain. So there's that. And then there's this. This is a rare instance when I can do this, because this is not how I operate. I've never operated this way. I have never been, skulking around, some of the, Ebbets Grill and some of the other watering holes in D.C., looking to see if I could scoff up an insider, make a connection, meet somebody, have a couple of beers, get some inside contacts. No, I don't do that. For one, I'm not a journalist. Right? If I was an investigative journalist, I'd be doing that. I'm an activist trying to get something done. And I know that doing that is not going to make it easier for me to be an activist. As a researcher, you have a license to do a lot of these things, but not as an activist. I don't have, and I have not had, nor have I cultivated what I would call really inside, let's meet in a garage in Roslyn kind of, no, I don't have that. However, by kind of accident, because I have been, I've really been active in making a lot of contacts, and there's been a huge amount of networking lately in my world. I became close to somebody who does have an inside contact, a very inside contact, one that this person has known for years. And they have drinks together, and they meet, and they talk, and so forth. And this individual, who I have absolute confidence in, made it clear, or pointed out to me, that this inside person within the administration, high level, stated that the president was briefed in his first term, as we have long suspected, and blew it off. Meaning, I don't believe this, right? I don't believe it, not interested, got other stuff to do. But in the second term, which is only the last year, exactly when, not clear, could have been before the age of disclosure, could have been after the age of disclosure, or any other things that happened, right, recently, was briefed again. And this time, he went, yeah, he got it. And was calling up people, talking about, my God, do you know that there was a crash in Roswell? And other things like that. Just kind of let him know how excited he is.
That's pretty cool.
So guess what? Let's add that to it.
Yeah.
Now, I could go on, but of course, you've got the age of disclosure, right? That is huge. I assure you, the impact of this movie is only just beginning to happen. I don't care if you liked it or didn't like it. I don't care, right? It was activist gold. And then, of course, Steven Spielberg, who is nobody's fool, finally announces, probably accelerated the announcement of his movie, which is going to be called Disclosure Day. Oh, what a coincidence, right? And Disclosure Day basically is kind of referring to the disclosure term that I came up with, Stephen, so many years ago. But not exactly the same. It's close enough, my friend. It's going to be a much more cool version of it, I assure you. But nevertheless, and based upon a lot of interactions I've been having in Hollywood's on board now.
Yeah.
Major people. I mentioned J.J. Abrams. I mentioned Cameron. I mentioned Spielberg. Right? They're on board. Spielberg is going to make $1 billion off that movie, Disclosure Day. And I assure you, every one of my colleagues currently living, and all of those that came before him, of which there were thousands, going all the way back to Ruppelt, right, and the others, is going to deserve a little bit of credit for every one of those $1 billion. Okay? And that's okay. I assure you, that is okay. Steven Spielberg could have punched this issue hard anytime he wanted to. He did a lot. But he didn't go as far as the age of disclosure. No problem. But now he is clearly adding his gravitas to this issue. He could have named that movie anything. And they were hinting that disclosure might be in the name going back a year.
Wow.
And now it is in the name. So let me make it quite clear. This is the year. There are some things that could happen that could push it off because, the potential for our bad behavior is unlimited. There's a lot of things that could happen, which is why it needs to happen as soon as possible. That's not the only reason. Because I know whatever's going to happen this year could be awful. But you get it done, then we're in the post-disclosure world, and what's going to happen is going to happen, right?
Right.
Okay? This is the year. And it's not just this is the year. It's not like, oh, there's this and that's going to happen, and then it could happen later. No. It's not like this is the year, but it could happen tomorrow. There is no fundamental reason why the President of the United States cannot do it tomorrow. There's no barrier anymore. It's gone. They're gone. And then there's this. Okay? I will state this as delicately as I can. Okay? The head of state that ends this 80-year lie and ultimately opens up the entire planet, it's inevitable, absolutely it follows, will have achieved, and this was just restated by by Christopher Mellon. He actually said this in so many words. Achieved perhaps the greatest political legacy or have conducted the greatest political act in all of human history, going back to the Assyrians. A legacy that is incalculable in its historical value.
Wow.
That will be discussed for 1,000 years, right? The head of state that does that will get that legacy. And almost certainly a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, come on. All right? That's a pretty big deal.
That's a big deal.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, if you are a president that is embroiled in controversy, in a super hot, hyper partisan time when everybody is either hating or threatening everybody else, and all kinds of mayhem is underway, and it's really unpleasant. And you walk out tomorrow and end the truth embargo. In 100 years, perhaps even sooner, almost everything that I just referred to, all of this chaos and negativity and awfulness, will be rarely spoken of.
Yeah.
But the act of disclosure will be talked about for a millennia. And of course, given the nature of things today, it's not like, it'll be in a book or written up on a paper that finally disappears. No, it's going to be in media and everything else, and it's going to last forever. Right? That is what is on the plate for the head of state that does this. And I'll end with this, because we already talked about the fact that get it done sooner, get it done now, so that something stupid happening will not push it off further. But then there's this, okay? Hang on a second. It slipped me just for a second. Again.
Drum roll.
Yeah, the other thing. I'll have it in a minute. God. It is the second reason why it can be tomorrow. And then there is this. Once the first head of state, the rest will follow. And so you're in the post-disclosure world within a week. Well, you're in it immediately, but in a week. I should mention that should our president do this, it will not shock anybody to consider the possibility that many would not believe it. Okay? I get that. It's okay. It's all right. It's not a problem. Until the next head of state confirms it. Pick one. At that point, it's locked down.
Yeah.
Right? And thus we enter the post-disclosure world, which may be the one thing that prevents that nuclear war from happening. Now, we could spend hours contemplating how that might happen and unfold, but the point is that I firmly believe it's the only thing that could stop it. If you're saying, well, no, we're going to get some treaties together, we're going to have detente, we're going to really get those nukes under control, we're going to make reforms. BS. There's nothing on. We didn't even talk about it. Politicians haven't got the guts to even talk about it. So the only thing that might actually prevent this from happening would be disclosure. And so you would prefer that you have the disclosure tomorrow as opposed to rolling the dice for the rest of the year and having nuclear war happen when disclosure will no longer even be relevant.
Yeah.
All right. So there is that. And I assure you that if it turns out that the post-disclosure world moves us away from the nuclear threat into a far safer world where we can, in fact, engage and solve problems without cutting each other's throats. That legacy is manifest because the historians and the intelligentsia of the future will look back and note that they didn't have that nuclear war. They got the post-disclosure world. And the reason they didn't have that nuclear war first is because that head of state did what no other head of state could do. And they did it in time. It's not like the nukes have launched, right? The United States is profoundly, and billions have died. Radioactivity will be around. The president is down in a bunker somewhere, along with a lot of wealthy millionaires. God knows we want them to survive. And then is able to get out a little broadcast to the destroyed civilization and the people that are wandering around in a radioactive field of ash. But he gets out a little that they can pick up on some of these old radios where he confirms, so sorry that happened. I know it's kind of rough up there, but I do want to mention that there are extraterrestrials here. I don't know where they are now. They may have left. I don't know. But you may run into one. Okay? Just let you know that. And so I'm the disclosure president. I'm the disclosure head of state. And good luck, right? And I hope to God you don't find where this bunker is. There's that. You see how I'm trying to frame this in a way that by the way, I'm sitting 2 blocks from the White House right now. That doesn't mean that your show is going to be heard at the White House. Right?
I know, right?
I'm just 2 blocks away. So if anybody should hear this and go, that's interesting, wants to just kind of mention it to somebody in the staff, I'm happy to walk over. Right? I have been to the West Wing a number of times. I've actually been in the press room a long time ago, but I know how to get around. I'm happy to go over and sit down and chat with somebody to say, let's discuss this. Right?
I think they should have you over. I think we should have Steven Bassett there leading the way. And you said something about James Fox being a national treasure. You are also one of our national treasures. I think that's why if people found this interesting, Steven's going to go even deeper, I'm sure, and even more things are going to happen in a month. So get your tickets for Conscious Life Expo at consciouslifeexpo.com. Friday, February 20th, 4 to 5:30 p.m. in the Plaza 1. And he's going to be talking a lot about what we talked about today.
And there's also a UFO panel.
Oh, yes.
I think I'm moderating. No, I'm not moderating. There's a UFO panel. You got to come to that. I think that's a freebie. And there's some other, and there's other stuff. So I want you to come. But let me just this is a 2-for. This is a 2-for-1.
Ooh, I love it.
Okay, you ready for this? I'm about to pull off a 2-for-1. This is so cool. Okay. For those of you that are wondering, I don't know, the conscious life, it's the same thing every year. It's kind of, I've been there a couple of times. It's kind of cool. And you're wondering, I wonder what it'll be like. What will it be like this year? It's only about 2 months away. It's still 2 months away. It's a ways. Right? Will it be exciting? Will people be charged up? Here's a piece of information you need to know. I'm very much involved in the Contact in the Desert conference, which is, I think, the premier UFO conference in the country now, if not the world. Right? It's been around for quite a while. It is has a long history. Currently is in an incredible 4-star resort in Indian Wells. It's a drive to get there, but okay. And I've been involved in the last 3. As of today, okay, the number of people that have signed up and the amount of money that has been taken in is twice the largest amount that the Contact in the Desert has ever been able to bring in by the same date. It has doubled.
Wow.
To a very large figure. And the only explanation for that is that people are really hyped up. They see the finish line. They see disclosure is close. They are excited. It's like, I want to hear this person, I want to hear that. Bassett will probably say the thing. I just want to be there. I want to be around 1,000 people that are excited that this is happening. Just saying. Now that's real information. Now, where is the situation with Conscious Life Expo? I don't know. But I think 10,000 or more come anyway. God knows how many this year. And I'm going to be wearing a mask, because this damn flu deal. But I'm going to be I'm going to be there. And so expect the Conscious Life Expo to be on fire. All right. Yeah. Just making a point. So you see how I did a 2-for-1 promo here?
I did. I saw it. Okay.
Just letting you know. And
you're a natural at it, I'll tell you. And also, people should go to paradigmresearchgroup.org. A great organization, a great group of people, and they can join, I'm sure, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, they can get on. Well, first of all, they can subscribe for free to my newsletter, which is about to get more active. Mm-hmm. They can donate. I'm a 501c3. But don't forget the New Paradigm Institute, which is a much bigger and robust, and it's leading, literally, the activism right now, as far as I'm concerned. New Paradigm Institute, you can join that, newparadigminstitute.org, and the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, which I helped found with Dan Harari back 2 years ago, is now up to 260-some members and really starting to take off. It's also a nonprofit. It will, if we get some serious funding, this thing is really going to go. That's awesome. Where a lot of information is coming from for me, and how I've been able to network into the LA Hollywood scene. So let's not forget that one. And then I'm also involved in a brand new conference, or a resurgence of a major conference called the State of the World Forum, stateoftheworld.forum. They just held an online event, lasted 3 days, great success. You can find it, stateoftheworld.forum. You can acquire all of the I don't know, interviews and panelists, of 56 some panelists. That's going to be an annual event going forward. And it's important because it is the resurgence of the earlier State of the World Forum that was put together by Mikhail Gorbachev and Jim Garrison in the West Coast back in the 90s, that had heads of state and major scientists and so forth all coming together to talk about the state of the world. Why? Because in the mid-90s, shortly after the end of the Soviet Union, optimism was high, very high, that now we had the opportunity to get things in order and to move back away from this madness that we've been doing and start to create a world that works. Unfortunately, after about 6 years, around 2000, others with a different point of view had pretty much gotten back in power and set us on a course for a new Cold War, a new nuclear or an extended indefinite nuclear arms race, lots of proxy wars, lots of a million or so, a couple million dead people. Yeah. And that's what happened. Now, 25 years later, we have another opportunity, because it is profound as the end of the Cold War was. I assure you, the end of the truth embargo is far more profound. And so Jim Garrison, who's still here, Gorbachev has left us, but Jim Garrison got back in touch with all the people that were, many of the people still alive, that helped make that incredible 6 State of the World Forums in the 90s, to start it up again. And the circumstances meant it had to be online, though they would like to have done it at a hotel here in D.C. They did it online. It's begun. It's a happening thing. It's raising money, and I invite people to support it. Well, let me put it this way. If you want to support it, get in touch with them, and they will show you how. Okay? I can't say more than that right now, but it's going to be a big deal. And there's 6 more, and it's probably going to be held at different cities around the world. But look into the stateoftheworld.forum. That is an example, a classic example of what a post-disclosure organization will look like. And there will be more such organizations. But it's already positioned itself as a post-disclosure organization. PRG, NPI will have to probably adjust a little bit and reposition once disclosure has happened. Right, as will MUFON and many of the organizations. Because, okay, that's out of the way. Now what are you going to focus on? Proving that there's an ET presence? I don't think so. Right? Trying to inform the world about what they need to know? Yeah. But then also examining how can we use this paradigm shift to start redesigning how we conduct our affairs, our diplomacy, our basic political structures, to respond and take advantage of it? Or do we want to just keep doing what we're doing until we finally have that nuclear war we've craved?
No.
I think the ability to convince people, let's don't go that way, let's go a different way. And then there is the wild card, the one that, by God, I got to start doing I got to get on ketone. I got to start my treadmill work again. I got to give up sugar and a whole bunch of other stuff, because I got to be around. I think I'm going to be around for disclosure. I'm not worried about that. But the wild card, open contact. Today on CNN, we have a full account of a recent discussion between the heads of 5 major nations, or the UN, with a panel of extraterrestrials. It was conducted electronically, right? But we do have the results of that, and we're going to provide that to you today. I want to be around for that.
That would be amazing.
Contact, which is the wild card that ultimately may ensure that we will not blow this opportunity like we did after the Cold War. Yeah. There is one other wild card, but it's the lazy person's wild card. It's the indulgent wild card, and that is, don't worry about the nukes. Some idiot launches them and they're starting to fly. The ETs are going to come down in their wonderful love for us and all the stuff we do, and they'll just turn them into, it's like
bunch of butterflies.
Yeah, they just turn. What's that movie? Oh God, I can't remember the movie where the spaceship turns into a flower and then it turns in. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Well, the
about.
Avengers did one too, where they tried to take out the main guy, the evil guy, and it turned into bubbles.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, okay, okay,
so they'll just turn him into turn him off and they'll just fall into the ocean. Yeah, that's a wild card. It could happen. All right. But if you're going to determine how you conduct your politics, your diplomacy, how you engage these issues, based upon the fact that you're pretty sure that the ETs will take care of the nukes, therefore there's no rush to address it ourselves.
Right.
Whatever history is left down the line, you're not going to be viewed very well. You're going to have a poor legacy, well, what can I say? This is not a wild card you want to play.
No.
But the open contact wild card, I think, is realistic 2 years out, and it could be helpful in finally getting over the bar post-disclosure that we're going to have to get so we don't have this nuclear war. Okay, that has been sitting on the table all of these years. We came close on 2 or 3 or 4 occasions. We got through it, and the politicians went, great, now let's get back to the same old crap, right? Get elected, make money, live well, and of course the wealthy people are going, I got some more time to spend my money. Let's not really fix anything. Yeah, we've had 4 near misses.
We don't need any more.
History indulges.
Yeah, we don't need any more. And I can't wait to see you at Conscious Life Expo. I hope to go to see the panels and then also see your presentation. So,
are you going to broadcast from there by any chance?
I'm going to do interviews. I probably won't broadcast, but I'll definitely do interviews for
later. Okay.
So
fantastic. I'll see you then, Tony.
You got it. And
all right.
Thank you, sir. And you take care of yourself. And thank you for doing what you do.
Ad Astra, my friend.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you for being part of this amazing journey that I've been on for a long time. And people like Steven makes it worthwhile for me. But until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. And I'll see you next Friday. Bye.